If you're looking for an inspiring human being, it would be hard to beat Dr. Sian Proctor. Dr. Proctor is a geoscientist and also an artist and poet who uses her afro-futurist space art to encourage conversations about women of color in the space industry. For 21 years, she taught geology, sustainability, and planetary science. She also happens to be an astronaut and was the mission pilot for the Inspiration 4 all-civilian orbital mission to space. Her call sign Leo was earned from her crewmates, who consider her a modern-day Rennaisance woman in the mold of Leonardo DaVinci. This special episode of the Design Better podcast was recorded at an internal event for InVision, where we brought Dr. Proctor in to speak to our team. After her inspiring presentation, I had the chance to interview her. We spoke about topics ranging from imposter syndrome, to learning to speak the language of your collaborators, to the natural synthesis between art and science. So let the countdown begin to a great episode with Dr. Sian Proctor. Thanks as always for listening.
I've worked with lots of search firms, both as a leader searching for new talent for my teams, and as an individual exploring new steps in my career. But I trust none more than Wirt & Company. Since 1995, Wirt & Company has been the design community's most trusted search firm, co-founded by a designer and led by a CEO who has in-house operational startup experience. Wirt & Company is guided by the principle that creative leadership is essential to business success. They've helped some of the most admired brands from early-stage startup to Fortune 500 build world-class creative teams. We're talking about companies like Airbnb, the New York Times, the Four Seasons, Notion, Figma, Google, Cartier, and Fair. Not bad. If you're looking for a partner to help you find the right person for a critical role, look no further than Wirt & Company. And if you're looking for your next design leadership role, Wirt & Company will guide you through the process as a friend and a champion throughout your journey. They take the time to get to know you, to understand what you need professionally and personally. Whether you're looking for your next role or your next team member, Wirt & Company can help you find a meaningful relationship. Visit wirtco.com to learn more and get in touch. That's WERTCO.com. Support for Design Better comes from Gusto, who make running a small business easy. Get 3 months free at gusto.com/designbetter once you run your first payroll. Running a small business is hard work, especially all of the payroll, quarterly tax filing stuff, and HR things. I'd rather be focused on my business and my customers than dealing with the administrative duties. But Gusto makes it easy. They automated the complicated parts of running a business. With Gusto, I never miss federal or state payroll tax filings. And I love the time off requests and time tracking tools. Gusto even offers a small group health insurance option for nearly any budget. When you run into issues you need help with, their HR experts are ready to help. It's a very well-designed product, easy to use, and great emotional design that will put a smile on your face. Design Better listeners get 3 months free once they run their first payroll. Just go to gusto.com/designbetter. That's gusto.com/designbetter.
Hey everybody, I think most of you know me, but I'm the host of our Design Better podcast. First of all, I just want to say we're so fortunate to have you here, Dr. Proctor. I'm already hugely inspired, and I woke up this morning and I was really excited, and I went to my daughter and I said, guess what? I get to talk to an astronaut today, and she's 11 years old. And I said, what would you ask her? And she said, are there any aliens out there? Do you believe in aliens, Dr. Proctor? So that could be a quick lightning question, but let's start with that.
Well, it's funny because as a scientist, I'm a skeptic, but I was looking. I want aliens to exist. As my favorite movie is Contact. So if you've seen Contact, but yes, I've seen Contact. One, they should send a poet to space, and they did. And two, she says if there weren't intelligent life out there, it'd be an awful waste of space. And so I was on the hunt. You can tell her I was looking for aliens. And there's a PBS show that I was in, it's called Genius by Stephen Hawking. Episode 2, Are We Alone? And I'm featured in that. And it's all about the search for extraterrestrial life. And so I think she would love it. It's on PBS.
Fantastic. I'll share that with her. She'll be excited. I love that movie and the book too. It's great. So you also talk about getting past imposter syndrome. I think a lot of us face imposter syndrome. I still face it a lot, even though I have gray hair and gray beard. I think it maybe never goes away. But talk to us a little bit. In our roles, we get to speak to a lot of different people. Sometimes they're much more senior to us. How do you go about facing imposter syndrome or maybe even embracing it?
Right. No, I suffer from imposter syndrome too. And, the thing that I've been able to do is have a conversation with that voice inside my head, because it's going to crop up. It's that base of fear, that particularly unknown change, how will I perform, all of those kinds of things. But when you engage in a conversation with that voice and you really start to break down, well, where is it coming from? What am I afraid of? What is the worst that can happen? What is the true risk? Because a lot of it is all based on the unknown and how well we will be perceived among others, or our ability to perform in high stress environments. And so once I start having that conversation with myself, and of course, my dad's voice kind of comes in there, and he was always like, sure, you can do it. Get on out there, but being able to say, okay, all right, what's the worst that can happen if it's a no from NASA? What's the worst that can happen if I go to sea and I fall overboard? Well, wait a second. What are the chances that I will fall overboard? Because I had that conversation with myself when I became a NOAA teacher at sea. They wanted to send me to Kodiak, Alaska to do fisheries. And I was like, one, I'm a geologist, fish. Wait a second. In Kodiak, Alaska, isn't that where deadliest catch happens and they fall overboard? And so I had all of these fears. And I said, whoa, none of this is realistic. Let's go and see what the experience actually is like. And so I went and I had the best time at sea. I had such a fantastic time that I signed up to go to the JOIDES resolution for 2 months in the Antarctic circumpolar current. And so a lot of times that imposter syndrome talks you out of amazing things.
You work with a lot of different teams that have a diverse set of skills and backgrounds. And we also, in the tools that we create, we want to create opportunities for people working in different parts of the organization to collaborate more effectively. How do you think about optimizing communication and collaboration across teams where these expertise and professional language might be very different?
Oh, that's a good question, because first of all, there are two parts to that. I've done a lot of thinking and kind of research in crew cohesion, and thinking about things from a strengths, a positive psychology, like what are your strengths within a team and what do you bring forward, and being open about that, because then you can talk about your strengths and then at like a puzzle piece, put together the teams that make sense to move projects along, even to the point where I had my crew members take the Strength Finder tests just so that we could talk about our strengths and how we fit and where we might have gaps and where the rest of our team members could fit in to fill some of those gaps. And so I think that is really important. Then when it comes to language, figuring out a common language, I had to go from being a geoscientist to a systems engineer in order to become the pilot of the Dragon capsule. I am not an engineer. So I had to learn to speak engineering. And it was really funny because at SpaceX, they're all engineers. So we're going through all of this stuff and they would be firing off all of these names and stuff. And I said, wait, I need a list of what these names mean, because until we could speak the same language, it was really difficult for me to move forward. That's a conversation that you have to have within your teams. You have to come up with a common language so that everybody can be productive together. So I think focusing on strengths as a good thing, being open about your talents and where you can fit in and what you love to do, because there's nothing worse than being assigned something that you hate doing within a team or a group, because you're just like, man, I don't want to do this. It's like answering email. Who the heck wants to answer email every day for hours? But if it's something that you're excited about, you said, Sian, I want you to come in and draw. I want you to make a logo. I'd be like, oh, this is going to be fun. That's one of my strengths. I really enjoy that. And so I think that those are two ways that you can be more productive.
You just touched on drawing, and you talked to National Geographic about how the human part of us is the art, the music, dancing, expression, the culture that we bring along with us. I think a lot of us in our work roles, well, some of us, if we're a designer or a writer, we may get to use that creative part. But how do you think about being creative as a scientist or in the other work that you do? And did those opportunities for creativity make you a better collaborator?
Yes. I got my call sign Leo, not because I was born in August and I'm a Leo astrology, but because my crew members considered me to be a modern day Renaissance woman or a Leonardo DaVinci. And so that's where my call sign. So combining art and science. And what I've come to realize is that there's art in science and there's science in art. And so when we're thinking about ourselves as a scientist and we say, oh, well, I'm not very creative, you actually are very creative. There is creativity in everything that we do. And it's about recognizing that. As a scientist and as a teacher, my job was to build curriculum and build lesson plans that students found interesting. There is an art to good curriculum development, just like there's an art to good coding. There's an art to cooking. There's art in everything, but there's also science in all of these things too. And so I think when we can break down those barriers and recognize that they're intimately entwined. What I love about the Dragon capsule is that it has a lot of function, right? It takes you to space and it can keep people alive in it, but it also is got aesthetics. It's beautiful. Our spacesuits. Hello, those are things are so nice. I'm like, I'm keeping mine. Give it to me. And SpaceX is like, I don't think so. But, this whole idea of having beauty and function, or aesthetics and function, and being able to design things and have the engineering work, but also recognize that people have to interact with this. They want to feel the fabric. They want to look good. They want to have an experience wrapped around all of the function.
Support for Design Better comes from Uplift Desk, who help you work better and live healthier. Eli and I log a lot of hours at our desks, which can be detrimental to one's health if you're not paying attention to ergonomics. Uplift Desk offer high-quality, well-designed desks, chairs, and accessories to help you build an ergonomic workspace for home or work. Eli recently got a standing desk, and I got a human-scale Freedom chair. I've been dreaming about this chair for a long time, and I finally got one. I've already noticed a big change in my posture with this chair, and my body thanks me for it. Eli is logging a lot more hours standing than sitting these days, and he can make quick transitions with the flip of a switch. We love Uplift Desk, and we know that you will too. Design Better listeners can get a special deal by visiting upliftdesk.com and use the code DesignBetter at checkout for 5% off your order. You'll get free shipping, free returns, and an industry-leading 15-year warranty. Go to upliftdesk.com, use code DesignBetter, and get 5% off. Design a better workspace with Uplift Desk. Support for Design Better comes from Gusto, who make running a small business easy. Get 3 months free at gusto.com/designbetter once you run your first payroll. Running a small business is hard work, especially all of the payroll, quarterly tax filing stuff, and HR things. I'd rather be focused on my business and my customers than dealing with the administrative duties. But Gusto makes it easy. They automate the complicated parts of running a business. With Gusto, I never miss federal or state payroll tax filings, and I love the time off requests and time tracking tools. Gusto even offers a small group health insurance option for nearly any budget. When you run into issues you need help with, their HR experts are ready to help. It's a very well-designed product, easy to use, and great emotional design that will put a smile on your face. Design Better listeners get 3 months free once they run their first payroll. Just go to gusto.com/designbetter. That's gusto.com/designbetter.
So I'm going to thread in a few questions from the audience here as they come in. I hope that's okay. Tim Newborn asks, as someone who's pushed beyond the barriers of your own belief limitations, what would you say is the single most important trait that led to your success in that journey?
Single most trait? Ooh, that's a tough one, because I will tell you that I feel very fortunate that positivity is my base. I have a glass half full mentality. And so that has helped me. I'm very futuristic, but also persistence. As a Black female, boy, geoscientist, trailblazing, always having to be the explorer, the first in, and having to work 110, 120% harder for everything. It really is that. You work harder to get recognized, and people expect you to fail. It's unfortunate, but that's the way that it is. And it's been a battle my entire life of having grit, determination, persistence. And I remember, becoming Dr.Proctor. I'm like, yeah, I did it. But that splashdown, when we splashed down into the Atlantic, I was like, becoming Phoenix rising. Ain't taking this away, folks. That moment of being able to celebrate all of that hard work and that persistence for that moment.
That's fantastic. So this next question is maybe tied to that, because it sounds like that was one of the kind of most pinnacle moments of your career. But if you've looking back at what you've accomplished, what are you most proud of and why? And if you could give your 10-year-old self any advice, what would it be?
That's hard to pin down because there are a lot of, pivotal moments in my life. But the ones that stand out are definitely becoming Dr. Proctor, because boy, that was a struggle. I mean, a year before I got my dissertation, I walked into my professors, 2 white male geologists. I had 3 on my committee, 2 white male geologists and a female that was cognitive psychology in a different building across campus. And I was like, I'm done. I can't take it anymore. Mainly because of a lot of the stuff that was addressed with the hashtag Black in the Ivory and just kind of microaggression and racism and all those things. And of course, my 2 main guys who I had been working with the one guy I'd been working with doing my master's. Bye, see ya. The other guy, bye, see ya. Walked into the female's office and I'm like, oh my God, I am so done, because she was the 3rd one in the line. And she looked at me and says, you are not done. You are my grad student now. Here's your office next to me, because now she could take over. She could have the power. And within a year, I was done. But that was a very pivotal moment for me. I was becoming Dr. Proctor. And then, of course, going to space and doing well there. But I think it's more than just that one moment. I think it's that from submitting that video and having the courage to put myself out there as an artist and poet and share that message to Splashdown was also a pivotal moment in my life. Oh, I forgot to say what I would say to my 10-year-old self.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I think the big thing is patience. And I think a lot of people, I want it now. You think of Willy Wonka and the golden goose. I want it now, Daddy. No, you got to have patience. It took me 51 years to get to space. But that journey, and I look at my life over from being 10 to, turning 51, and wow, the experiences, the journey, it's so rich with interactions and connections and experiences that being patient and being persistent is what I would tell myself at 10, and enjoy the ride.
Just questions from Magic Masters. And she asks, how do you see the path for more people of color, specifically women of color, unfolding in space programs?
Active allies. We need active allies. We need people who are at the table, people with privilege to create a Jedi space. They have to actively, when people say, well, I support people of color, I support everybody, you say, really? How? Give me some examples. How are you actively? Because you can say you're supportive. That's great. But if you're not opening up space, if you're not creating a Jedi space, then you're just on the sideline watching. And we need active allies. If we're going to make any progress, we need the people who are at the table, the people who have privilege, to open up that space and make it a Jedi space. And when you're opening up that space, you're not taking away from others, because a lot of times it's this whole competition thing of, well, we only have so many pieces of the pie to give out. No, pie, the number is infinite. We need to reframe from an actual pie to the number pie and think, well, open up access and opportunities is an endless pool.
So this is probably inevitable, but we also want to ask some questions about just going to space. What was that like? And that moment when you opened the front portal and you could look down on Earth, you talked about it a little bit already, but how did that reframe how you think about, humanity here on this planet and what our future might look like?
Oh, it makes me wish I could bottle Earth light and then just shine it on everyone so that they can experience it. Because it really is, we have this relationship with the moon that is interesting and to some extent mystical. And we think about how a full moon, why does it make us feel that way? Why does moonlight captivate us? And you just want us to be able to have that same kind of relationship with our planet, because it is the most beautiful planet in our solar system, and there's no better place than home. And so how we interact with each other and treat each other, and how we just, could we share resources? Can we move away from this competitive kind of like historic model into this more complementary, we're all in this together on Starship Earth model, and that it's one kind of living system. That's what I would hope we could strive for. But that's the kind of change that I've come back. I mean, I had some of that as a geoscientist, but going to space as an artist and a poet, it allows me to express these things in ways that I wasn't able to before.
Support for Design Better comes from Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery. Design Better listeners can save 50% on their order at factormeals.com/designbetter50. Use the code designbetter50. You know what happens at my house when things get really busy? In the evenings, we turn to takeout, which can be expensive and it's not very good for our health. Lately, we're making a better choice at crunch time. We turn to Factor for chef-created, dietitian-approved meals that are ready to eat in just 2 minutes. We like the flexibility of Factor too. You can change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week, or you can pause or reschedule your deliveries at any time. The meals are so tasty. My wife and I are huge fans, and I like their smoothies too, which I find are perfect for a quick, healthy breakfast. Factor can help you eat well and feel good while focusing on your career and your family. Head to factormeals.com/designbetter50 and use the code designbetter50 to get 50% off your order. That's code designbetter50 at factormeals.com/designbetter50 to get half off your order.
You shared with us, I think, a longer version of your talk, and you didn't get to talk through this in the opening segment, but maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the actual challenges you faced early on that impacted the direction that you took over the course of your career.
Yeah. So, as a kid, I loved military aircraft and couldn't explain why, but I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be specifically a fighter pilot. From my earliest age, my dad used to take me to get model airplanes to buy. And I just thought that that would be so awesome to be able to be a fighter pilot and then turn into an astronaut and go to space. And then you couldn't back in the 80s be a fighter pilot if you wore glasses. And so I got glasses around the age of 15. And so I knew that I was never going to be a military aviator. So I thought, well, I will never be an astronaut, because that just was the way that I saw my road to get to space. And then my dad, who had always been my biggest champion, passed away when I was 19. He had gotten lung cancer. And so it was one of those things where I became a kind of an angry teenager and very defiant, but yet still on that course of science and going to school and getting educated. But it wasn't that Cinderella story by any means. Losing my dad, going to school, being the only Black female normally in all of my classes, not having any Black female science professors ever in my entire career, and just always feeling like you're alone in these spaces and looking for people to connect with and having as allies. And even just, again, it wasn't until I was almost done my PhD that I found true mentorship for the first time, where somebody said, no, this is the way it should be. And you're like, oh, really? Okay.
You just talked about the importance of mentorship. And for those of us who might be in a position to give some mentorship to somebody, what are some ways that you think we could go about doing that?
Well, I think one of the things that, again, if you're thinking about that Jedi space, because we feel we have a comfort zone. We tend to want to be around people who look the same as us, who value the things that we value and all of that. And I would say, think about stepping outside of that comfort zone. And so when you're thinking about mentoring somebody, try mentoring somebody who you normally wouldn't take. And so why would you not normally mentor this person, or why would you choose this person over that person? Try choosing that person instead, because it'll help you grow as a mentor as you navigate that new space. Because a lot of times when we stay in that comfort zone, we don't grow, we don't learn as much. It's when we're out of our comfort zone that true growth really starts to happen, because we're pushing ourselves to really take on things that we might be afraid of, the unknown, all of those things. And then I'd also say that mentoring or mentorship we try to sometimes have an age associated with that. But as you get older and seasoned with gray, I covered mine up. So it's never too late to have a mentor. So I'm finding mentors now. And I'm like, oh, I need a mentor or even a sponsor for some of the things that I still want to do as a seasoned individual.
So other than the mentorship, and this is a question from Michaelia, did you use any specific techniques to overcome your perceived limitations, things like meditation or therapy or anything like that?
I love the idea of therapy and meditation. I've done a lot more of just reading self-help books that I've done, particularly in understanding strengths, understanding my own tendencies and things like that. But I want to be better at meditation. I've tried a bunch of apps. It's something that I still think about this morning. I was trying to meditate a little bit as I was taking on my day. And I think that these are things that, again, it's about habits and changing your habits. One of the books that I read was Power of Habit, because this is stuff that I'm trying to do and really trying to embrace this idea of how do I make my well-being a center core of who I am. And so I did embrace it some, but not as much as I would have liked to. I was still successful and stuff, but I definitely feel that that is something that is slowly being weaved or integrated into my fabric as I learn to change habits, bad habits that I've had for many, many years of ignoring my well-being.
So we're getting a lot of requests for you being a mentor in the chat. I'm sure you already have a long line of people.
Oh boy, yes. Thank you. I appreciate that, but boy.
So, right now, obviously we've been in a challenging period for the last number of years. And right now the international situation is very complex and scary. And I kind of think back to my own childhood, again, revealing my age here in the 80s. And that was the last time I remember nuclear war being something that we're really, really worried about. You've got such a wonderful, positive energy. How do you bring that positive energy to the front during times like this that are so challenging?
Well, there's a couple of things. I remember that in the 80s. That was the thing that terrified me as a kid, was that idea that a nuclear bomb was going to drop on us. And so when we get into these really stressful times, just like things that we cannot control, like, unfortunately, we can voice our opinion and we can vote, but we feel powerless to some extent. It's going back, for me at least, to how do I get myself into either a neutral state or a positive state? Because you have ups and downs. I'm a positive person overall, but, there are definitely times when I'm just not feeling happy or just wanting to engage in all of that. And that's when I go back to the core of me. What are the things that make me happy? Music. So listening to the right music, forcing yourself to put on music that just resonates with you, because music has a way of changing mood. And then, funny enough, romantic comedies, my favorite type of movie, everybody's happy in the end. And so I will go to a romantic comedy and I will put that on and I will watch it when I'm not feeling that optimistic about the world, just because it will put me in a better headspace where then I can be like, okay, now I've baselined myself out. How do I move forward and be productive in this space? For other people, it might be going for a run, getting out in nature. Those things that just help centerline you, those things that help kind of lift you up when you're not feeling your best. That's the time when you reach into that toolkit and you pull those things out and you say, whoa, I need a mental health break, and you just shut things out. You put those iPod in your ear and you just go and do your thing. And it's okay to say that, because I think that that's the thing that we don't say, what? Okay, I just need to shut the door and I need a moment. There were times when we had long days and I was tired and I was like, I just need a moment. Give me 15 minutes. I'm going in the other room and I'm just going to take a cat nap because I need this moment for myself. And so figuring that out and then taking those moments, precious.
Well, Dr. Sian Proctor, want to be respectful of your time, and just huge, huge thank you. Everybody could just give a little round of applause, some emojis. Hopefully everybody's just as inspired as I am, and it's just an honor to have you here. We thank you so, so much.
Can I read you one poem from my new book, Space to Inspire?
Absolutely.
Art of Inspiration.
Absolutely.
Just to leave you
Please.
with a little something, because I know you're going off and you're doing awesome things. And so let me think. I'm going to do black magic. I'm an afro-futurist artist. And so thinking about how in the future we might be, augmented in order to be able to survive the harshness of space. But black magic. Unleash your black magic like it's your last breath, unique to just you as the DNA of a supernova, filled with exploding strength like the pull of gravity. Your whispered dreams manifest as precious as rays of gold. They blow away the light of darkness like a gravitational wave aching to stay, allowing you to gasp at the sublime as the beat of your soul expels the endless rainbow of time. So go out and unleash your black magic.